focus zone for my first book. So,
Well,
uh,
all right, we are live, and I'm going to hit the record button. Good morning, Paul Weston. We have so much to celebrate today with the launch of your book. Do you have it handy right next to you?
I have about 200 copies here actually ready to go. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, brand new.
Running Uphills.
Yeah.
This is such an amazing book. And actually, I ordered mine and it didn't come in yet. That's just unusual. Um, so tell us a little bit about you and why this book, why now? Because you had Running in the Rain was your previous book.
Yeah.
What's this book about?
Well, Running in the Rain, the first book, is all about getting stuff done. It's about not messing about, getting out there, running in the rain. We complain we don't go for a run because it's raining, which is ridiculous. The whole book is about not making excuses, getting out and doing stuff. And that was about 4 or 5 years ago. And I figured, well, if I write a book, I've got to write another book. And it's taken me a long time to get around to the next book. And I was looking for the theme and the flow. And it just sort of came to me earlier this year, I think. Running in the rain, running up hills, and the stuff through life has kind of bugged me. And I've always tried to look on the amusing side of various things. So I just started writing a few ideas down, and they built and they built. So it's just frustrating things that I sort of moan about, put them together, and I try to put a slightly humorous edge on it. And there's some poignant things in there, some sad things as well. But at the end, I think it's the point of getting to the top of the hill. If you look at a hill and you go part way up and stop and come back, you're like, have you achieved anything? If you get to the top of the hill and look back and say, well, all that stuff was going on, I got to the top of the hill. So that's really overcoming some of the challenges in a hopefully entertaining way that people can go, yeah, I relate to that. And that's basically the principle behind the book.
It's beautiful. And I have to admit, I had a few chuckles with your book as we were going through it. There was a lot of cool things and it put things in perspective, truly, because you yourself on a personal level have faced some really difficult things. I don't think we can get life through life without facing tough times. It's what we do about those things is how our life turns out to be. And that's the important things. But you talk about some really tough times. And one was one of um, your issue with Tourette syndrome.
Yeah.
I'd like to address that because I think when I was uploading your book to Amazon, I even picked that category. And the reason I picked it is because I started doing the research to see what other books were out there. And it is a subject that people, that there is being written about. And there's a lot that goes into that. So let's hear about your journey on that.
Yeah. So when I was young, 5 or 6 years old, I had a twitch or a tick, and I'd do things with my mouth, maybe shake my head and various things. And, my parents didn't really know any better. Oh, you stop that, control it. I went to the doctor. They took me to the doctor. The doctor said, "Oh, we'll grow out of it." A lot of kids have this. Well, I never really grew out of it. I was bullied at school. I was made fun of at school through junior school and high school. Even my teachers would shout at me in class. They didn't understand. It's a different time. This is the 1960s and 1970s, and people didn't really understand. I don't blame them for that. I joined the military at 16, and of course, that was tough. The hardest thing was standing on parade, standing still, because I joined as a military musician. And yeah, exactly. So my drill sergeant, a wonderful guy called Tony Martin, just came and just spoke to me one day. He noticed it, and I was trying to control it because Tourette's is a neurological disorder. It's the brain sends random signals to parts of the body, and the body has to react. It's like a miswiring of a light bulb. Suddenly it flashes, suddenly it doesn't. And you can plug in a new light bulb and it's fixed. Well, you can't plug in bits of your brain. It's just a neurological disorder. And he basically said to me, just breathe and relax. And my troop officer said, look, you can come through this. You've just got to try and manage it when you can. And I went through life, not stopping me do anything. I didn't realize it was Tourette's. Got this nervous twitch, this tick. And then earlier this year, actually, I was listening to the BBC News. I live here in Canada, and I put the BBC News on, and they were talking about, well, every week they have a special cause, a special day they focus on, and it was Tourette Syndrome Awareness Day. And they were talking to a lady from Tourette's Awareness in the UK, and they talked about what Tourette's was. And they said, well, it's two motor tics. So it could be a head shake, could be a movement, could be something with your hands, with your fingers, those sorts of things, and a vocal tic. And some people have it really severe called coprolalia, which is when you scream and shout sort of obscene words. Mine's not as severe as that, but I have a cough tic at times. which is a vocal class as vocal tic. And suddenly, like, wow, what did they say then? And when they described it again, I thought, that sounds exactly like what I've got. So I immediately did some research and found out that, yes, I conform to all the symptoms of Tourette. And then I did a lot more research, and the only diagnosis you get is from a neurosurgeon. And I actually had an appointment because I've been getting some bad headaches over the last couple of years, and I had a brain scan. They're going to analyze it, and I brought it up with her, and she assessed me and talked to me and various things. Said, "Yeah, you have. There's no cure. You can't suppress it. You can try as hard as you like, but when you have that signal from the brain that says you need to do this, you can try and stop it as long as you can, but you've got to let it out. It's like holding your eyes open. You can hold them open as long as you want. You want to blink at some point. And over the years, I kind of learned to manage it, where I could suppress it as long as I could, but then I had to release it. And even now, as a public speaker, I'm heading off to do a 2-hour talk this afternoon. There'll be times when I want to just let stuff go. And I start my speeches off introducing myself as a Tourette. And I'm part of the Tourette's community. I'm getting involved now with the Tourette's Association of America. I was at their TIC convention in June, which is amazing to be a part of that community of people. Seeing young children who got support that I never had when I was a teenager. There was no support.
Kids it's a different world now.
Totally, yeah. And parents can go into school with their kids, and if the kid's having a bad tic day, they say they're coming in hot today. And they educate the class. This is Paul. Paul is a Tourette. He may say a few things, he may do stuff, and we're going to support Paul. As opposed to my teacher said, "Hey, look at Paul. He's twitching again. Who was laugh?" Thankfully, we've got over that now, and this was kind of the last chapter in the book. Brings everything together, I think, where I talk about my journey with Tourette. But, if somebody said to me, would you go back and live a life without it? No, because I think being able to overcome that and achieve all the things I have in my life, it's made me stronger. And I think
it has. Yes. You talk about it in the book about being your superpower. And it's just, you think of it, if you've got a sneeze that comes on, you can't really often stop the sneeze. A cough, any number of things, and it all goes hand in hand. But we can either let things like this be our downfall because of our attitude, or we can use it as something that really hones us into the people that we are, and that's what you have done.
Yeah, it's interesting when I talk to people and explained it more. I posted it on social media and said, "Hey, I've just come to this realization, yada yada yada." And some people have said, who haven't known me for all that long, have said, "Never noticed it. Absolutely never noticed it." Other people I've known for longer have said, "Yeah, of course, we know you've got this. So what? So what? Well, so what to you?"
Yeah, but
live a life I live the first part of my life. But we hear what you say. And everybody's been supportive about it. And I think for me, when I go to meet with, I do a little bit in Canada, but more with Tourette Association of America. When I talk to parents whose children have been diagnosed, if the parents don't have it, because usually it's hereditary, but not in my case. Nobody in my family's ever had it. When I talk to parents, they want reassurance. It's going to be fine. You just need to support your children. Whatever you do, don't shake them and say, "Stop it. That ain't going to work."
It does not work.
No,
yeah.
You support them. So hopefully people will take something from this to support them. And I know the Tourette Association of America are promoting the book as well. It's only a chapter on it, but I think it brings all the stuff together. So it's a big help.
It's quite beautiful. And then another really tough subject is Alzheimer's that you've been facing with your mom. And I know I've seen it, and we've lost my husband, both of my parents with that. And oh man, what a change that is to a family. But still, you watching your mom go through all of this, and your dad and how he dealt with it has been tough.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, and I first started to notice it in 2019. I live in Canada, there, still in the UK and England, in Derbyshire, a beautiful part of the world. And I just noticed a few things that I'd never seen. My mum was incredibly well organized. She was absolutely sharp as a tack. Nothing ever got past her. And, if she didn't believe in something, she would give you her opinion on it. She never took a step backwards. And, I come by honestly, kind of my mum. I mean, the first book, my mum could have written that. It's all about how I was brought up with discipline and getting stuff done and so on. And then I noticed some things, like she cooked a meal and some of the stuff wasn't cooked properly. I'd never seen that. Toilet. I walked into the bathroom. The toilet wasn't flushed. The tap was on. There was two hot points on the stove were on, and I'd never noticed stuff like this. And I was a bit worried. And it was just as COVID hit, so I didn't get back to the UK for 2 years. And we'd have a video call, my mum and dad, every Sunday morning. And my dad started saying things like, "Yeah, I'm cooking this for Sunday lunch," and I was sort of, "Hang on, you're cooking Sunday lunch?
Yeah.
You have cooked Sunday lunch. You do a few bits, but what's going on? It's just easier that way." My mum was just sitting there; she wasn't really engaging, and I managed to get local authorities involved. As a dementia rapid response team came out and assessed her, and then we diagnosed it as Alzheimer's. And then I went back 2 years later. Eventually, I get back to the UK, and I saw exactly what it was like. What my dad, who at the time was 91 years old, was having to look after my mum, and he wanted to be the loyal, dutiful husband. They'd been married 71 years, and he wanted to be there to support my mum, which during the day was okay. But at night, she was, needed care in bed 2 or 3 times in the night, and he was changing the bed and the poor guy was absolutely exhausted. So eventually, we managed to get her into a home, which she always said she'd never go into a home, but we realised she had to go, and then there was a remarkable decline in her condition, and they gave her 3 months in palliative care, which was 18 months ago, and she's still going. But my mum has spent a lifetime proving people wrong. She's believing someone's opinion, she'll go out to prove them wrong, and she's still going extremely well looked after. There's a flicker when I see her. There's a little flicker, but that's it. But then I start my journey of getting into Alzheimer's, looking at it, and just how incredibly broad spread it is across the world. 50 million people across the world, more than the population of Spain, suffer with Alzheimer's or some form of dementia, and there's no cure, of course.
Right.
Absolutely no cure. So it's took me on a journey to researching it. The more I talk about it, the more people in my circle of friends. I mean, typical example is you said about your own family experience. Very, very few families don't have some sort of relationship with dementia. And I think if we can start to talk about this and appreciate the challenges that people face. And one of the great things that's come out of it, I think, is I'm probably closer to my dad now than I've ever been. Not that I wasn't close to both my parents, but the fact that he's now, we've sold the house, he's living on his own. I talk to him every 2 days. I'm heading over this weekend. I'm back there every couple of months. I'm going to spend Christmas with him. I'm probably closer to him now, and I've seen what he's done for my mum, and he's a hero.
And it is so beautiful, watching my step or my in-laws go through this, and my mom is starting that path too. She's 88, and I talked to her on the phone. We live 1,000 miles apart, and it is really, really bothering me that I'm so far away from her, because I know she needs much more care. So we're trying to figure that out. But my father-in-law I would walk in his house, and I'm very late coming to the family. It was, my husband and I've been just married 17 years. And he'd look at me and he'd say, "Who are you? Get out of my house. I don't know who you are."
Yeah.
And then he would start singing word for word a song from 1934.
Yeah.
It was just so mind-blowing what could happen to, and this was a brilliant, brilliant man, and you wonder what happens with that, and we all know that there's a good, strong possibility that could happen with us, and really, what do we do? What are we doing to prepare for that that eventuality? Do people know? Does our children or our families know what we want done?
And
So
there's the odd little piece of humor, like with everything in the book. I want to bring a little bit of humor, if I can, into something. And I remember going to see my mum. She'd been in the room, and she's on the first floor. She's not on the ground floor, the first floor of the home that she's in, and she's facing the window, and she's basically been in the bed for a long time. And sometimes she'll just chat about stuff, and very little now, but sort of a year or so ago, she'd been in the home for about 6 months, 9 months, I guess. And she wasn't saying much, but she'd spring into song, and then she'd just say something like, she'd sit there quietly with her eyes closed, suddenly say, "I'm not doing it again. I'm not doing that again." So something had popped up in her mind, and then she said, "There was somebody looking at me. There was a man looking through my window at me this morning." And I said, "I'm sure there isn't, Mum." "No, there was a man looking through my window this morning." So I thought hallucination, which is often what goes on with Alzheimer's. So as I left the home, I called in at the manager's office just to, say hi and talk. I said, "I don't know what medications my mum on, but I think she's hallucinating." Why? Well, she said there's a man looking in at her this morning, and they said, "Oh, the window cleaners have been around." There probably was a man looking in at her that morning. Nobody believes the word she says, but yeah, there's a window cleaner cleaning the windows, probably waiting for it. So little bits of humor come out of all sorts of things.
So you talk about fun things too in your book, and the way you reacted to them and learned to react. You talk about faffing. What is
Yeah.
faffing? I've never heard of it until your book.
So faffing is a term that I grew up with in my family and took with me into my military life, and it's a kind of a British colloquialism, I guess. Faff is sort of not getting on with stuff, messing about. And I start that chapter with trying to get onto an aircraft, and there's a lady trying to get into a seat, and she's deciding what book to read. She's disinfecting the seat. She's getting the headphones out, getting the scarf out, getting the cushion out. Meanwhile, there's 300 people trying to get onto the plane. She's faffing around. And then when she sits down, she needs another book out. She's up and down, up and down. Then we come to get off, and she has to put another pair of socks on, a jacket on. She's faffing around. She's not getting on with stuff. And there's actually, a magazine called The Idler, where the guy talks about faffing, the art of faffing, and it's basically not getting on with stuff. And I kind of, comes with what comes with Tourette's is you get another host of other stuff that comes with it, ADHD sometimes. For me, OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. And I'll faff, I'll sort of, if I'm going on a business trip, I'll lay all my stuff out 3 days before I go. It's already in my spare room today for traveling on Saturday. So only Wednesday, it's all out ready to go. I'll pack it tomorrow, and then Saturday I'll unpack it, pack it again. Just so I'm faffing around.
I must have that problem.
Yeah. I put my passport in a pocket on my bag the night before, and nobody else is going to go near that bag. I get in the car, I'll be halfway at the airport, and I'll think, I didn't check my passport. So I'll pull over to the side of the road, get out, open the bag. Yeah, the passport's there. Why would it not be there? Faffing. I'm just faffing around instead of getting on with it. And I kind of, the first book, it talks a little bit like that. Just get out, just get on with it. So it can be really frustrating at times, but a good faff can be healthy for us. But it's an interesting concept.
It does cause a good laugh.
Yeah.
And what about you've been in sports? You've also served in the military, in a band, right?
Yeah, Royal Marines Band Service. Yeah, 26 years. Yeah.
26 years. What was that like for you?
Fantastic. It was the only two things I was interested in at school were music and sport. I was relatively good, I think, at both. And I remember when I was sort of 15, coming up to 16, I had to decide what path I went on. Either went on to do A levels in university or get off and get a career somewhere. And I remember going to see the careers advisor with my dad, and we had a list of all the subjects: geography, chemistry, maths, English, all the rest of it like that. I had to put a check mark or a tick next to the ones I like and a cross next to the ones I don't like. I don't like math, don't like English, don't like science. And the only thing I like music, yeah, and I love sport. And my dad just said, you'll never get a job doing those two things. And the careers advisor said, have you thought of joining a military band? I thought, oh, a brilliant idea. So we went to the Royal Air Force recruiting office, with my dad and my mum both served in the RAF where they met. And the guy didn't really know a huge amount about the music services, come back later on. Then we went to the army, and I played a string instrument, like violin and viola, and I played clarinet and saxophone as well. And I wanted to do both. I didn't want to just play a wind instrument. I wanted to play string instruments as well. And they said, well, to be honest, you're just going to be playing clarinet or saxophone. I didn't want to give up violin and viola. So we went to the Royal Marines and Royal Navy recruiting office, and the guy in there was an ex-military bandmaster, and he welcomed me with open arms. And I never looked back and went for auditions, left school, joined at 16, and then I had 26 years, during which I got commissioned, reached the second highest rank in my branch, traveled to all over the world, over 50 countries, 4 years on the Royal Yacht, Britannia, with the royal family, traveling all over the world, and became a music director, as a conductor, leading a band of almost 100 musicians, going on deployment all over the world. It was fantastic. I wouldn't change anything. It was absolutely brilliant. So yeah, it was lots of experiences, and there's some dark times as well. But I think the comradeship, the friendship of the people you build alongside you, the relationships you build, is probably the best part of the whole experience.
I would imagine that is fascinating. And then where does sports come in? And you've done a lot of running.
Yeah. So rugby and cricket were my main sports. Rugby predominantly. I played through school, and then I played during my time in the military into my sort of early 30s, and a couple of shoulder operations and knee surgeries and various broken bones, half of which my dad never knew about. I didn't tell my parents. So I kind of took that in my early 30s. But I found music and sport go together extremely well. Most of us in the military were sporting as well as being musicians. And I think for me, music is the greatest team sport there is. And tonight, I'm playing a concert rehearsal last night. We're doing a Beatles tribute with a Beatles tribute act tonight. My symphony orchestra playing. And when you're sitting there with an orchestra playing along together, it's just as good as any team sport. Probably better, I think, more rewarding. You're all on the same page, same speed, same pace, same discipline, everything like that. So
it's beautiful.
two combinations together are very important.
So what do you hope when somebody picks up this book, what do you hope they gain from it?
I hope that they read it and nod and go, yeah, yeah, I can see that. I mean, I talk about baggage getting lost on an airline. We've all been there. I talk about jobs worth. Jobs worth is another English colloquialism. Somebody who turns around and says, "Not my job to do that." They just sort of sit back and push back and make life difficult for other people through utter pedantry.
Mhm.
Just ridiculous sort of nauseous control freak attitude. Not my job to do that. Well, if you did it, we'd all be better off. And there's some stories in there that talk about that. I talk about sporting cheats. I talk about, trying to qualify for a major event to find out the guy next to me is running a marathon, doing 10K and handing the number over to somebody else doing 10K. And the time at the end will count for qualifying. Is at the wall, and doping cheats in sport, very, very frustrating. So I hope people look at it. I hope they nod and think, yeah, I see where you're coming from, and perhaps a little bit of self-reflection. Perhaps I'll look back. I mean, an airline's lost your bag. You go to the baggage services desk, and the poor chap there or lady there is going to deal with it. Now, they weren't responsible for putting your bag on the aircraft, so there's no point in getting angry with those people.
Right.
And then
But
I
you feel
see
like,
people screaming and shouting at the poor person, going, that guy was not in wherever you've flown from putting it on. All they can do is try and find the bag for you and learn a lesson. I learned, a while ago that carry-on bags. I want to take a little box of laundry powder that I can do my laundry, take two of everything. If you've got your carry-on bag, it's with you the whole journey. So
I agree. I'm the same way. I
yeah,
just went to Tampa, Florida, last weekend, and I was like, nope, I'm carrying my bag. I'm not gonna go to check it because
yeah,
of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
Paul, I've really enjoyed working with you on this, and it's been a joy to have you come back and to see the progress that's been made, over the years, and that you're bringing another piece of your heart to the world because that's how you lead. And congratulations, because your book did make #1 bestseller in many categories, and we're looking for even that to come to fruition again today. And so, congratulations, and I hope your day is just beautiful and magical, and that you take a little bit of time to celebrate.
Yeah, well, once the concert's finished tonight, I might settle and have a little scotch or something like that.
Yeah, that'll
My
work.
dad's still for everything's a scotch, and thank you, Becky, for all your team. When it's wonderful when you send me the front cover. I think we made two very minor edits on the size of the font, but I saw it and I thought, bang, that's it.
Yeah,
And both books. As soon as I saw that, it looks fantastic. So really, really pleased with the look of the book and everything. So it's a team effort with Susan Crossman, my editor as well. She does a wonderful job. We sync very closely together. So it's great to have a team on board. And I better start working on the next book. Running
that's
downhill.
right, right.
Something
And
like
when
that.
people discover your work, you never want to stop at one. So here's two, then three, because that's the whole process. And once they're going to look for your book if they really liked your first book,
Yeah.
and that's the beauty. And I really love how you have you put yourself out there. You really show the sides of your personalities that is and how you lead, and that's the beautiful part of it. So congratulations for those listening. The link is in all the comments below. Um, Grab a copy of this wonderful book and post a review on his behalf, because the reviews are kind of the lifeblood of a book. I know I pick up a book, I look at what the back cover says, and then I like to see what people are saying right at the very first of the book. But when on Amazon and in even the other places where the book is published, the reviews are what people look at. They want to know what are other people saying about this book. So the reviews help really boost sales. So congratulations on a job well done. And I hope your day is just fantastic and you do take time to celebrate.
I will do. Thank you, Becky. Great to
All
talk to you.
right. Thank you. And let me stop our